So good day everyone for our second lesson in Hematology 2. So clinical safety and sinama ko na yung waste management kasi medyo maikli lang pala itong topic na to. And also, almost lahat ng subject nadaanan na rin to. Okay, so parang almost lahat ng subject na-discuss nyo na din. So kaya maikli lang din talaga siya. So parang refresher lang siya. Okay? So for our learning outcomes, after this, you should be able to describe laboratory safety practices, including occupational exposure, fire prevention management, and prevention of needle stick injuries. So you should be able to describe the different categories of healthcare waste and its proper disposal. So many conditions in the laboratory have the potential for causing injury to staff and employees. So patient specimens, needles, chemicals, electrical equipment, reagents, and glassware are all potential causes of accidents and injuries. So thus everyone should be knowledgeable on the proper laboratory safety practices to minimize potential risks and injuries. So we have our standard precautions. So Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, mandated a rule regarding occupational exposure to bloodborne pathogens. So that rule is all samples should be treated as if they were infectious. Okay, so all samples, regardless kung kilala nyo man, kung kanino siya galing, kung kaibigan nyo man, kamag-anak nyo man, or kahit alam nyo na wala siyang sakit na pwede mong ikahawa, you should all treat them the same. So as if they were infectious. So we have different safety laboratory practices. Number one is proper hand washing technique. Number two, eating, drinking, smoking, and applying cosmetics or lip balm must be prohibited in the laboratory work area. Number three, hands, pens, and other fomites must be kept away and from the worker's mouth and mucous membranes. So food and drinks, including oral medications and tolerance, testing beverages, must not be kept in the same refrigerator as laboratory specimens or reagents, or where potentially infectious materials are stored or tested. Okay? So yung ref po ninyo sa lab na may reagents and such, hindi dapat nilalagyan ng pagkain. So mouth pipetting must be prohibited. Ang mouth pipetting po ay obsolete na, hindi na natin siya ginagawa. So we have automated pipettes na. So needles and other sharp objects contaminated with blood and other potentially infectious materials should not be manipulated in any way. So contaminated sharps, including but not limited to needles, blades, pipettes, syringes with needles, and glass slides, must be placed in a puncture-resistant container that is appropriately labeled with the universal biohazard symbol, or a red container that adheres to the standard. So the container must also be leak-proof. So personal protective clothing and equipment must be provided to the worker. So let's move on to fire safety. So fire safety is an important component of the laboratory safety program. So each laboratory is required to post fire evacuation plans that are essentially blueprints for finding their nearest exits in case of fire. So here we have the different classifications of fire extinguisher and some acronyms to remember. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 types of fire extinguisher for also 5 types of fire. So class A, that is consists of wood, paper, and clothing. Ang extinguisher natin is water lang. Class B is flammable organic chemicals. Ang fire extinguisher consists of ay composed of dry chemicals, carbon dioxide, foam, or halon. Class C, electrical fire. Phase for dry chemicals, carbon dioxide, or halon. Then, ang laman ng fire extinguisher for class D naman, combustible metals. Okay? And then for class K, that is grease, oils, and fats. So how to use the fire extinguisher? You should remember the acronym PASS. Okay, pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, squeeze the handle, and then sweep side by side. Okay? So things to do naman when fire is discovered, you should remember the acronym RACE. So first R, rescue the person in danger, if possible. Number, next one is A, okay, activate the fire alarm. C, contain the fire. And E, extinguish the fire. So the National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA, mandates that all chemical in the workplace be identified and clearly marked with NFPA label. So this is the NFPA label. Okay, so you should memorize this one. Okay, so how do we read this? Okay, so yung number one, yung yellow diamond on the right side ay for reactivity. Okay, so the number inside represents kung anong level ng reactivity niya. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 0 as stable, 1 as unstable. Number 2, violent, chemical change. Number 3, shock and heat, may deteriorate. And number 4, may deteriorate. So kung ano yung number sa loob, ito yung nire-represent niya. So the red one sa upper is for the fire hazard. Okay, again, the number represents its flash points. So kapag 0, it will not burn. Pag 1, above 200 Fahrenheit, magbe-burn na siya. Number 2, below 200 Fahrenheit, and so on. For the blue one on the left side, so that is the health hazard. Okay, so the number signifies 0 for normal, 1 for slightly hazardous, number 2 hazardous, number 3 extreme danger, and number 4 is deadly. Lastly, the white one, yung nasa baba. So this one is for specific hazards. So hindi na number yung nakalagay dito, but specific symbols. For example, is ito yung W, meaning use no water. So wag ihalo sa tubig. For the radiation, ito yung symbol, corrosive, alkali, acidic, and oxidizer. Okay. So you should remember this, and yung kahit yung mga levels, memorize nyo ito. Okay? Next one, material safety and data sheet. So MSDS are written by the manufacturers of chemicals to provide information on the following that cannot be put on the label. So the MSDS provides information on the following. So we have the manufacturer, your name, address, phone numbers, and yung date prepared. Hazardous ingredients, yung common names nila, worker exposure limits. We have physical and chemical characteristics. For example, yung boiling point, vapor pressure, appearance, and odor ng chemical. Next, we have physical hazards. So we have the data on fire and explosion hazards and ways to handle the hazards. So next is we have also reactivity, yung stability ng chemical, and yung possible reactions. Makikita din po sa MSDS. Next, we have the health hazards. So these are signs and symptoms of exposure, such as eye irritation, nausea, dizziness, and headache. Next, we have documentations on whether the reagent or a component of the reagent is considered a carcinogen, teratogen, or mutagen, so that process and procedures are adapted to limit risk of exposure. So we also have precautions for safe handling and use. So what to do if there are chemical spills and how to dispose of the chemical, and what equipment is required for the cleanup. So we have also control measures. So how to reduce the exposure to the chemical and protective clothing or equipment, such as the use of respirators, gloves, and eye protection that should be used in handling the chemical. So that's it for MSDS. So all of those details can be found in the material safety and data sheet. Yung MSDS po, binibigay yan ni manufacturer. For example, yung laboratory nyo umorder ng reagents for chemistry, yung chemistry, yung supplier, dadalhin si reagent, kasama po si MSDS. The MSDS should be kept in the laboratory, yung madali siyang hanapin in case of emergency na kailangan may tignan na information, alam ng mga medtech kung saan siya hahanapin. Okay? Next, we have medical waste. So, medical waste is defined as special waste from healthcare facilities which may be infectious. Okay, so we have different ways of disposals. We have flushing down the drain. It could be by incineration, landfill, burial, or recycling. For um for us, usually I believe landfill burial ang most common sa atin. Okay, so yung flushing down the drain, hindi po dyan kasama yung mga reagents and chemicals. Usually, mga bodily fluids ang tinutukoy dyan. So, pwede yung i-flush sa drain, provided na may proper protocols na sinusunod. For example, urine, gano'n. Okay? So, categories of healthcare waste. Number one, we have infectious waste. So, infectious waste are all wastes suspected to contain pathogens or toxins. Number two, pathological and anatomical waste. Okay, tissue sections to or kaya bodily fluids or organs, yan, under ng pathological waste. Okay, yung number one pala, infectious waste, nilalagay natin sa yellow bag. Yellow bag. Number two, pathological, also sa yellow bag din. Okay? Number three, yung sharps, mga needles, glass slides, mga nabasag na glasswares, dyan yung papasok. So, ilalagay siya sa puncture-proof container. Number four, chemical waste. Chemical waste, ito yung mga reagents, okay? Mga chemicals na ginagamit sa laboratory. So, nilalagay po siya sa yellow bag with black band and label. Number five is pharmaceutical waste. Okay, so sa yellow bag then with black band. Next, we have radioactive waste. So, sa orange po ito, and then non-infectious or general waste sa black bag naman. So, that's it for our lesson 2. Okay, so if you have any questions, message your respective clinical instructor na lang, or you can message me. Okay, so, yeah. So thank you and have a good day.